Listen, I reviewed this laptop last year and it turns out that I had complained so much about the screen that I guess, well, they fixed it. Now a year later, it actually makes sense to compare to a MacBook, except for one thing, Windows. But take a look at this. Now, why exactly am I looking to have a Linux ecosystem along with my Android phone and all that? Well, the truth is that I'm building a home lab.
This was me on November 4th, and it took 20 full days from there just to install Linux. And to be fair, part of that delay was us traveling to the EU for a Porsche production. But my Linux journey started on November 24th. And if you want to know what happened as I'm doing this voiceover on January 12th, well,
I don't know what day it is, day 50, day 45, but I think I definitely broke the laptop. Because now I'm booting into this weird freaking menu, man.
I think I broke my bootloader, really. But let me go back to the start, because having lived with Linux for practically 55 days, I've gone through a lot. And honestly, the saying is true. If you suck at Linux, it's usually a skill issue. Listen, I installed PopOS on a laptop running a 120Hz OLED panel powered by a freaking 5090. A 5090 capped at 130 watts TGP. I chose PopOS for its immediate GPU support and its graphics mode switching it offers out of the box. So from my research, I knew PopOS offered good battery management. And with Windows, I was averaging about 4 hours of screen time on this laptop. But little did I know at the time, this was about to be super useless to me. But I installed PopOS on a different partition so I could dual boot Windows. I spent a couple of days making sure that my NVIDIA drivers were indeed good, making sure my screen worked fine, learning how to mount virtual drives to further connect to my local server, fixing DaVinci and testing it, fixing Bluetooth issues and testing multiple devices connected at once. And I remember at one point I got so caught up on installing Mango UHD to be able to run my games and take a look at telemetry that it took me forever. All of it because I didn't even realize I had installed Steam through Flatpak, which complicated everything without me knowing. Like, I had no idea what I was dealing with. And what the hell is Flatpak? As I was doing all of this, I also realized that if you want to open folders as an admin within the GUI, you need to install a tool for that. And that's when it clicked. Like, it clicked in my head that running Linux is a skill, but the more you use it, the more you understand it. And honestly, it would have helped a lot if I had taken the time to understand how the Linux file system works. That's definitely something I'd recommend, because even though I studied computer science and worked with Linux, the reality of things is that I didn't spend much time working with it. But yeah, I remember the first couple of weeks was just running gaming tests, battery life tests to compare with my previous Windows usage when I was traveling across Germany. I also made this really nice setup with KDE, Local Send, Google Photos, WhatsApp, and Google Messages, all to make sure that while I'm on my laptop, I'm always connected to my S25 Ultra. It makes simple things like file transfers or copy and paste between devices super easy. So I've got this whole S25 Ultra and Linux ecosystem going on. By the way, if you want a video about that, let me know with a hashtag Linux. And if you enjoy this, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps because making these type of videos, well, it isn't easy.
This is it. This is my setup. Very interesting. I've got Google Photos going on, messages synchronized with my S25 Ultra. I've got Parsec in case I wanted to connect to my custom PC here at the office while I'm away. I have Spotify, Discord, Local Send when I want to transfer files, although KDE is really good at transferring files, copy pasting as well. I've got all the apps I need really to have my Linux and Android setup ready for me to start using this the next 30 days, because the reality of things is that I'm going to be using the P16 with the 5090, the AMD CPU in order to fulfill my needs.
After 15 days of setup, the next 30 days were, I guess we can say they were extremely different. Still, it was very rewarding despite wanting to break my laptop thousands of times. No, but honestly, the first thing I did was travel with it. I took this abroad for a media brief we had to attend, and I used it to do everything. If I needed to use Local Send, use ChatGPT, text people, use it on the plane to get some work done, along with my headphones. I mean, I really freaking used it. and this was the first real issue I ran into, which was a battery life.
I took the laptop last night. I was working at the airport, testing some battery life, just doing my thing, you know, using WhatsApp messages, all on the laptop. Very cool, very cool. Now, as I'm getting on the plane, I'm working a bit. I decided to put it on sleep mode. Cool, we're good. As we're landing, I take my backpack. It is smoking hot. Take the laptop out, try to turn it on, dead. So I guess that's bug number one. So now I have a dead laptop because on top of that, I didn't bring the charger. I have this little Anker charger that I can maybe use to charge the laptop, but it's just I hate bringing those massive breaks, and I'm just here for literally the next 8 hours and then I'm going back home.
Yeah, this was the biggest fight I've had with Linux, and the fact that Windows laptops with crazy specs require you to bring those massive charging bricks around makes it really annoying. Now, I always carry an Anker charger with me, and that day as I was flying back, I charged it using 90 watts. From 5:51 p.m. to about 6:28 p.m. I went from 4% to 40%, which I thought was pretty good because I was using my laptop as I was charging it, and all of this while being in hybrid mode thanks to PopOS. So you know what? I was happy with that, even though sleep mode was something I still needed to fix. But you see, as the days went by, as I used it more and more and more, as I was playing with new devices, adding to my Linux fun because you really can code anything with it, I realized battery life just simply sucked. In fact, I remember making a TikTok about it, and the comments were very opinionated, however some very helpful. But even though I wanted to sit down to fix my battery life issues and my sleep mode issues, I remember December for us was like absolutely insane. We had so many videos to produce, so many deals to finalize. I needed my laptop to simply work, so there was no time for me to start like troubleshooting stuff. However, my complaining definitely did not stop as I was using it.
I'm dreading the fact that this doesn't have sleep mode. Linux is killing me with that fact. Right now I'm connected through Parsec to Windows because John needs me to verify some voiceover I did for a video. But yeah, I'm technically running Linux, as you can see. But yeah, I'm at 5% because I forgot to shut down the laptop instead of, or I forgot that sleep mode doesn't work and you gotta shut it down. And anyways, yeah, it's annoying. Honestly, I think the three main things to figure out is sleep mode, move everything to a dedicated NVMe, and figure out battery life. Other than that, it's been really good. PopOS has been really good.
Yeah, listen, those are like the three main things I had to focus on. Because honestly, even though performance has been really good, sleep mode and battery life were the only real issues up until that point. And on December 21st, I thought I had found a fix for my sleepy issues, but you'll see later how that did not work out for me.
Today is December 21st, and I'm kind of annoyed with sleep mode more than battery life. Every time I suspend the laptop, it doesn't really do anything. It just keeps eating battery life as the screen is off, so that's kind of weird. It keeps the laptop on. Listen, I'm doing some research. It says hibernation will save the current state of the system and turn off the power. I think that's what we want, but it seems like we have to enable hibernation on PopOS. So there's literally this entire document explaining how to do that. So I'm gonna get that done and see if that even does anything. From there, if that works, I'm gonna note that down, and then I'm also going to try to run this laptop on integrated graphics to see how battery life behaves.
Oh man, little did I know I was going to run into a lot of issues I needed to troubleshoot. So first, not only was I reading about hibernation mode, but I was also reading about how complicated it can be to migrate from one NVMe drive that had both Linux and Windows installed to another. And so while I was working on that, I told myself, alright, you know what, let me just do all of this while I'm running on integrated graphics. In my head, the plan was to run a quick battery life test so I could give you guys some real numbers. Man, did it break my machine. So this was the first time I actually freaked out because I thought I broke Linux. After switching to integrated graphics, I ended up with a black screen. What finally fixed it was rebooting and editing a single boot parameter so Linux could load the correct GPU setup. Whew.
Whew, okay, we're back in. I really thought I lost everything for a second. If you're relatively new to Linux, or you're brand new to Linux, I guess, or even like sort of advanced, I feel like ChatGPT just saves so much time trying to troubleshoot. It's not always good because I've had some weird, quirky things with ChatGPT while trying to fix something on Linux, but for the most part, it works really well.
And this is how, for the most part, I've been treating my Linux experience. Instead of using Stack Overflow and wasting time researching, I've been spending so many days troubleshooting with ChatGPT. While it works, it's important you do understand the terminal as a whole. It's important to ask questions and important to know what you are doing, or at least learn about it. Another great recommendation I'd make is to watch a video about terminal commands and how they work, because overall, you can do some really cool stuff with Linux.
Linux is actually really strong when it comes to a hardware OS level input mapping. So the cool thing is that if you install Keyed and you enable it, you can create a config file to literally map all of these keys. But here's the interesting about Linux. Linux lets you create layers. So like think camera modes, same buttons but different behavior. Like for example, on one layer this dial will control the volume, right? And then on another layer this dial will control my timeline, like on DaVinci. On another one it can switch my Chrome tabs. And so really Linux is like really good at this. And this is just one of the main reasons as to why I'm trying to stick with it, because you have so much flexibility and so much control over everything.
Look, as we were getting into the holidays, I never took the time to continue perfecting my Linux workflow, especially with all the videos I had to produce, which you guys have seen. But eventually I took the time to try and dive back into my integrated graphics issue. I spent some time trying different things, like first of all making sure a dedicated monitor would work, that it read it properly, especially at display outputting 240Hz, and I kept trying to inform myself about why I was having such an issue with my iGPU. In fact, as the days went by, I was just running and working off hybrid mode, which in theory, it switches between the DGPU and iGPU, but thinking about it now, I don't think hybrid mode was actually doing anything since the iGPU simply wasn't working. I was actually getting pretty much the same battery dissipation across different workflows as I used my laptop for work with either the iGPU or DGPU.
Currently, I'm filming for another video in the house. I'm finishing our house tour video, so I have to film a few things. And I'm currently connected on Parsec to be able to, remind myself of the shots I need to take, because those shots and that project currently lives on my Windows machine at the office, which is my desktop machine. Now, if I check quickly, laptop is at 34% and it's 8:35 a.m. That 34% is not going to last me much, especially if I'm using Parsec.
But my PopOS journey continued. I mean, that day as I was connected using Parsec, I was at around 26%, and I love the workflow I have really. If I can't use DaVinci locally, it's nice being able to use Linux for all the other things I need it for. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, from 8:47 a.m. to 9:11 a.m. in 24 minutes, you can easily lose about 20% with a simple workflow, at least on this machine. And so battery life is the thing I've been struggling the most with, and sleep mode, of course.
I just realized something. I forgot to turn off the laptop. So now my bag is smoking hot because this doesn't have sleep mode. Damn, that's hot. Oh, that's hot. Actually, you guys want to see how hot this thing is? Look at that. It is smoking a hat, man. So today's the day where I'm finally going to port everything to a new M.2 SSD and not dual boot. And then I'm going to start really setting up the rest of the stuff that I feel like I need after all this time.
January 8th, the day I finally decided to go from one NVMe to another, took me a while. I raged a bit here and there, broke Linux here and there, made the system freeze from time to time, a bit more rage, being impatient, got it done though. Then January 9th, for some reason my GUI crashed. Used my phone to find some answers for that, which led me to decide to reinstall the NVIDIA drivers, and it worked. I'm sure I bricked something as I was switching NVMEs, but anyways, then I decided to work on power profiles. Finally, I was so excited because the internet was recommending this a lot to me. I spent like so much time just trying to learn about it and understand it. In fact, not just long ago, I decided to sit down, steal my wife's desk, and start implementing my own power profiles until I bricked my laptop again. You see, using Linux or at least PopOS with an external monitor isn't as great as it seems, mainly because either display doesn't support its own independent scaling, which means that you can't scale a monitor individually from the built-in display. In my case, the GUI within my built-in display was so tiny, and the GUI within the monitor was perfect, which made the built-in display useless in a way. And while I tried to fix that, I kinda bricked the laptop again. I was annoyed because all I've wanted to do was figure out my power profiles using LTP. And I spent so much time on this, man, like for no freaking reason. Because apparently PopOS actually recommend not using LTP. Instead, they recommend using the Power Profiles daemon utility, which I tried to install with absolutely no luck because I had PopOS dependency breakage, which seems to be a classic PopOS issue. So you know what? I told myself, since 2404 LTS is out, maybe upgrading from 2204 might just fix that. So I did that and waited and waited and waited, and boy was I wrong. I had finally nuked my system.
I gave up, man. I think I'm gonna switch to CachyOS. I'm a bit frustrated. I booted the PC, it boots me into this busy box terminal thingy. Apparently it's a common failure after upgrading PopOS, so now my disk is sort of failing. I think it's because of the UIDs I had to sort of change when I was migrating from one SSD to another. It might not even be that. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Apparently it's a 5 to 15 minute fix, but I keep running into this, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm in this environment that PopOS sort of just fails every time you do something, so I'm not really enjoying it. Everyone's been suggesting CachyOS, so I might just give that a try. Through my head, I decided to give CachyOS a try. It didn't last long, not at all. This one's complicated, man. So I've been doing some research, and I think I should probably start with ZorisOS. That's like the closest thing to Windows from what I've been researching. Really, PopOS didn't work out as I planned, but that's okay. I do feel like I gave up on that, but you know what? There's plenty of distros to try out there. And really, that's what I plan on doing for like the rest of the year. By the end of 2026, I think I'll be a Linux guru. So tell you what, if you guys subscribe to the channel, I'll make a ton of update videos on my Linux experience. Like a 90 days later, 180 days later, whatever, you know, 6 months later, whatever you guys want. I'll make that for you. And I'll film my suffering, really. I hope you guys enjoy watching me suffer.